I'm Violet Clark. I'm 32, an accountant in Brunswick, Maine, and until last Tuesday, I believed my life was carefully, almost perfectly, constructed. I left Boston 5 years ago, trading ambition and noise for salt air and quiet streets. My apartment overlooks the Androscoggin River, and on still mornings the water reflects the sky like glass. It felt earned, this calm, a reward for years of grinding myself down in corporate offices where the lights never dimmed. My life is simple on purpose. No debt, no chaos, no dependence. Just clean spreadsheets, balanced books, and a coffee pot that never gets the chance to cool. I built it that way. And then one phone call split it open. It was a Tuesday morning, the harmless kind. I was at my desk, half awake, filtering emails and planning out quarterly projections when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Maine area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something made me answer. Hello, is this Violet Clark? The woman's voice was precise, professional, scripted. Yes. This is Karen from Coastal Trust Bank. We're calling regarding your outstanding mortgage balance of $500,000. We've sent multiple notices. Your account is currently overdue. For a moment, I didn't understand the words. I'm sorry, I said carefully. I don't have a mortgage. A pause, keyboard clicking. Ma'am, the loan was opened 3 years ago. Your name, date of birth, and social security number are listed as primary borrower. The property is located in Cape Elizabeth. 3 years ago. The timeline hit me like ice water. 3 years ago was when my sister Tessa became obsessed with starting over. Her modeling career in New York had collapsed, too competitive, too expensive, too unforgiving. She'd started showing up to family dinners with Zillow listings pulled up on her phone, swiping through pictures of beachfront cottages like they were lifelines. Look at this porch, she'd gush. Blue shutters, ocean view. It feels like me. My mother, Diane, would squeeze her hand and say, "We'll make it work. Family always finds a way." Back then, I thought it was comfort talk, the kind families say when dreams look expensive. I ended the call politely. My hands were shaking when I set the phone down. The office heater hummed too loudly. The walls felt too close. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and a radiator that bangs like it's angry at winter. I track every expense in a spreadsheet. I don't take financial risks. I don't gamble with my future. $500,000 isn't a mistake. It's a catastrophe. I told myself it had to be an error, a clerical glitch, another Violet Clark somewhere in Maine. But my stomach wouldn't settle. Over the years, I'd handed my family everything they asked for without hesitation. My social security number for tax filings, my signature for mom's hospital payment plan, my credit when dad's fishing boat business capsized under debt. They had every piece of me. All they had to do was assemble it. I left work early, claiming a migraine. At home, I tore through the storage box under my bed, bank records, tax returns, co-signed forms, a medical authorization from Tessa's emergency room visit after she wrapped her car around a guardrail. My name was everywhere. My information scattered across their lives like spare change. I sat on the floor surrounded by paper, my untouched coffee growing cold beside me. The realization crept in slowly, sharp and merciless as a Maine winter wind. They hadn't borrowed my help. They'd taken my identity. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Streetlight glow slipped through the blinds, striping the ceiling above me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tessa at dinner, laughing too loudly, dreaming too big. "I just need somewhere to begin again," she'd said once, turning her phone toward Mom. "This place could be everything." Mom had smiled like it was already hers. "We'll figure it out." Now those words felt rehearsed, planned. And I was never meant to know my part. By morning, I was at my kitchen table with my laptop open and documents spread around me. Growing up in Portland, I'd been the responsible one, the kid who balanced the checkbook when Dad forgot to pay the electric bill, the one who made sure Tessa got to school on time, covered her chores, fixed her mistakes. Mom used to call me her steady hand. I thought it was praise. Now it felt like positioning. I pulled my credit report. My pulse thudded in my ears as the page loaded. There it was. A $500,000 mortgage with Coastal Trust. 3 years old. Late payments. Collection warnings. My credit score, once pristine, was damaged, bruised by debts I never created. I searched my files and found an old envelope from Coastal Trust, a pre-approved offer I'd tossed without a second thought, a warning flare I never saw. When I called the bank again, I requested full loan documentation. The clerk said she'd email everything by end of day. Waiting felt like drowning slowly. When the PDF arrived, I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Page 1, my full legal name. My birth date. My social security number. Page 3, the signature. It looked like mine at first glance. Same looping V, same slant. But it wasn't. The L was too clean, the R too decisive. I always hesitate on my R's, a tiny hitch from years of signing too fast. This one was practiced, studied. My chest tightened until breathing hurt. This wasn't a stranger. This was someone who knew how I write my name. The next day at work, numbers blurred on my monitor. I kept replaying every time I'd said yes, co-signing Dad's equipment loan, helping Tessa consolidate her credit card debt, trusting that love meant shared responsibility. I'd thought I was supporting them. Now I felt like a vault they'd quietly emptied. I needed someone outside the family orbit. That's when I told Marcy. Marcy works 2 desks down from me, the type who brings donuts on Fridays and notices when your mascara's smudged. We were in the break room when she saw my hands trembling around my coffee mug. "Violet," she said gently, her Vermont accent rounding the edges of her words. "What's going on?" I told her everything. The call, the property in Cape Elizabeth, the forged signature. She didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, she slid her phone across the table. "Call Jack Brennan. He handled my cousin's divorce when her ex tried hiding assets. He's in Freeport. He doesn't scare easy." Jack's office sat in a weathered clapboard building off Route 1. No receptionist, just a crowded desk, metal filing cabinets, and a coffee maker that looked older than me. He was in his 50s, buzz cut, steady eyes. I handed him everything. He flipped through the papers in silence, pen tapping once against the desk. "This is identity theft," he said finally, "plain and simple. Your information was used without consent to secure a mortgage. We can dispute the debt, file a police report, potentially pursue criminal charges." The word criminal made my throat tighten. "It won't be quick," he continued, "and it won't be painless." "Hurt who?" I asked quietly. "You," he said, "and the family structure you've been holding together." He closed the folder and looked at me steadily. "But you didn't break it, Violet. You're just the one who discovered the fracture." He outlined the steps: written dispute to the bank, police report in Brunswick, documentation, every record showing patterns of access to my information. That night, I went through everything again. Student loan forms I'd filled out for Tessa. Medical paperwork for Mom. A car lease I co-signed when Dad's credit collapsed. Each document felt like another brick. Not in a foundation. In a trap they'd been building around me for years. By midnight, I had a folder thick with proof, bank statements, credit reports, the forged signature circled in red. My life reduced to paper. But for the first time since the phone call, I didn't feel powerless. I felt prepared. Sunday dinner at my parents' house in Portland was a ritual I almost never skipped. The drive from Brunswick usually felt routine, pine trees blurring past, radio low, mind quiet. That day, it felt like marching toward a front line. The folder sat inside my purse, heavy against my hip. When I stepped through the door, everything was painfully familiar. The scent of fresh bread from Mom's bakery drifted through the house, mingling with the faint trace of Dad's pipe tobacco. Tessa lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone like the world had never asked anything difficult of her. Mom fluttered between kitchen and dining room, narrating neighborhood gossip. Dad sat in his recliner, eyes glued to a Patriots game. It was so normal it almost made me doubt myself. We ate roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans bright with lemon, forks clinked, weather was discussed, a neighbor's fence, nothing real. I waited until the plates were cleared. My pulse hammered, but my voice came out even. "Does anyone want to tell me about the $500,000 mortgage in my name? Coastal Trust. House in Cape Elizabeth. Silence slammed into the room. Tessa's fork hit porcelain. Mom's smile faltered, just slightly. Dad shifted in his chair, clearing his throat like the air had thickened. Mom recovered first. "Oh, Violet," she said gently, like I'd overreacted to a misplaced bill. "It's just paperwork." Tessa needed help qualifying. "You weren't using your credit, and it's not like you're the one making payments." Tessa still wouldn't look at me. "You've got perfect credit," she muttered. "I don't. It's not fair if you won't help your sister." "Not fair." Dad stared at the table as if the wood grain held answers. I waited for someone to say we're sorry. No one did. To them, this wasn't theft. It was logistics, a family workaround. I had always been the backup generator when their power failed. "Thank you for clarifying," I said calmly. Relief flickered across Tessa's face. Mom reached over and patted my hand, certain the storm had passed. They didn't see it, the shift. The moment I stopped carrying them. I left shortly after, the folder untouched in my purse but heavier than ever. Monday morning, I drove to the Brunswick police station instead of work. The officer who took my statement had tired eyes and a clipboard worn thin at the edges. I laid everything out in careful stacks. Credit report, loan documents, signature analysis. He flipped through the pages slowly. "You're sure about filing this?" he asked. "This is family." I held his gaze. "If I don't, they'll do it again." He stamped the report. The sound echoed like a door closing and another opening. Next, I drafted a formal dispute letter to Coastal Trust, attaching the police report and copies of my identification. At the post office, I watched the clerk slide the envelope into the outgoing bin. It looked small. It felt monumental. I didn't warn my family, didn't text, didn't argue. I let silence speak. 3 days passed, then 5, then 7. No calls. No apologies. Just quiet. Then an email arrived from Coastal Trust. The mortgage was suspended pending investigation. The signature had been flagged as inconsistent. Notary records were under review. It wasn't victory. But it was movement. I called Jack. "They're investigating," I told him. He gave a low chuckle. Banks move fast when someone shows up with documentation instead of emotion. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I wasn't fighting. I was standing. A week later, I was cooking pasta in my apartment when someone knocked. Through the peephole, I saw Mom. Her mouth was set tight. Her coat hung loosely on her shoulders. I opened the door but didn't step aside. "How could you?" she demanded, voice shaking between anger and disbelief. "Going to the police? We're your family." I crossed my arms, not defensive. "Steady, family asks," I said. "They don't steal." Her expression cracked. "You're making us look like criminals." I didn't raise my voice. "If the truth does that, maybe that's not on me." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the person in front of her. "You're tearing us apart," she whispered. "Do you know what this could do to Tessa?" "I didn't tear anything," I replied. "I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken." She left without another word. That night, Tessa's texts flooded in. "You're ruining my life. Please call me. You don't understand. I needed this." I deleted them all. Not angrily. Just finally. Weeks softened into months. The silence stopped feeling like loss and started feeling like space. I signed up for a painting class at the community center. My hands, once always wrapped around calculators and keyboards, learned the feel of watercolor bleeding across paper. I painted lighthouses, storm-heavy skies, waves crashing against rock. On Saturdays, I volunteered with a lighthouse preservation group along the coast, scrubbing glass lanterns and cataloging weathered artifacts. It wasn't glamorous work. But it was mine. My credit began to heal, slowly climbing back toward the numbers I'd once guarded so carefully. Jack updated me occasionally. The investigation was progressing. The notary had been questioned. The loan remained frozen. One weekend, I rented a booth at a Brunswick artisan fair. I lined my table with paintings, moody seascapes and restless water. One canvas sat in the center. I'd named it Anchor. A woman paused in front of it, studying the brushstrokes. "It feels strong," she said, "like it survived something." I smiled. It did. She bought it. That night, I rearranged my apartment, shells and glass jars on the windowsill, a new easel near the couch, tea steaming beside me as the river moved quietly beyond the balcony. The quiet no longer felt lonely. It felt earned. Then, one bright spring morning at the artisan fair, I felt it, that sensation of being watched. I looked up. Mom, Dad, Tessa. They stood at the edge of the lot, uncertain, smaller somehow, as if time and consequence had finally pressed back. I stepped out from behind my booth. Mom spoke first. "We made mistakes," she said, voice trembling, "but we're still family. Don't shut us out." Tessa stepped forward, eyes glossy. "I just need help, just for now, please." The old reflex stirred in me, the instinct to fix, to soften, to sacrifice. But it didn't take root. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was the mortgage document stamped void in red. Behind it, a faded photo of me at 10 years old, helping Tessa build a sandcastle on Old Orchard Beach. I handed the envelope to Mom. "I'm not angry," I said evenly, "but I'm not your safety net anymore. Family doesn't take what isn't freely given." Tessa's tears fell. Dad stared at his boots. "I hope you figure out what family really means," I added, "but I won't keep paying for the lesson." I turned and walked back to my booth. The crowd hummed. The air smelled like salt and early blossoms. Sunlight spilled across the lot in gold and blue. I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the backup plan. I was the foundation. And I was finally, completely free.